I wanted to talk a little about a subject that frequents my mind, um, the dynamics between males and females, particularly men and women. There's quite a bit of disharmony between the two. And although I don't propose to know from where all this had originated, I recognize there are certain patterns and that my understanding and experience of psychology is that it doesn't matter if a person finds the chronological source as much as they recognize the experiential source, because what these are patterns that govern very much the decisions that we um, carry out throughout our lives, governs the way we think, governs our ability and capacity to be able to understand everyday situations, as well as much more complex um, concepts and ideas, and even high philosophical ideas. So the patterns are what, in some way, need to be intersected. I don't want to use the intercepted, but in some way that also. Now, I think the first step is to not just is to just simply not engage with the patterns. That's the most straightforward thing to do. It's not easy in all circumstances. However, there are many other patterns that can come into play as well. But one pattern of women, which I didn't know until within the past couple of years, actually, is, and it's now, mind you, all patterns are not necessarily detrimental. They're not necessarily harmful for us. There are some patterns that are very good survival patterns. Women have the survival pattern where, then again, this is, I mean, I haven't asked this of every single woman, but I have asked it of, I think, three at least, and they confirmed it, that women in general feel unsafe as a pretty common experience for them. Whereas for the average man, and I can take my own experience, the average man can maybe find remember a moment that he felt his life was in jeopardy. It can also be according to how recent the situation was. So that's a big thing. The fact that women physically don't feel safe. And it's very interesting when I think about that from the Hindu perspective. From the Hindu perspective, I mean, ancient India, the woman was never left unattended, in the sense that while growing up as a girl, she was living under her father's roof. And even as the customs have unfolded throughout the different regions, the daughter is betrothed to her husband, and the duty of protectorship is transferred from the father to the husband. So the husband now assumes the role of the protector. And it's fitting, because I know even myself as a man, I never would have thought about this before until recently. There's something in the feeling of a man when he's protecting a person, particularly a woman, that there's something very satisfying in that for a man. I can say for myself as a man, there's something satisfying in that feeling of protectorship. And another thing that was interesting to me that I had learned about the female was that and actually a man actually craves this feeling of protectorship. It's interesting. A man craves it. whether the man recognizes it or not. It's expressed in different ways, but this is one of the underlying things that are going on. Now, the female, she likes this, she craves this feeling of encapsulation, of containment, as this woman Teal Swan had put it. Women like this feeling of containment. And what I understand is that, and what I've heard, actually not understand, but what I've heard is that from a woman herself, she likes to feel owned. She likes to feel owned by the man. So it's funny because as much as society fights against this feeling of ownership, in its more innocent expression, it's beautiful, and it's part of life. It's harmonious with life. But in this perverted version that we now see running throughout the whole world, practically, so it seems, at least in our society, it's anti that. It sees that because it doesn't see that. What it sees is the abuse. Is the abusive, perverted version of that. And this is where the big problem happens. I see it. This is what I think is the big problem of society. We haven't found the way to align ourselves with those fundamental qualities or principles. Traditional values. Traditional values is one way I think we can put it. And again, everything gets skewed when there's an abuse of one thing. The whole lynch party comes out and they just try to obliterate the foundation from when that one thing came, like tradition or religion. Tradition, religion is something that's rooted very deep in existence. It's not like America or Russia, which is going to be here today and gone tomorrow. The name of Hinduism actually isn't Hinduism. The real name of the Hindu religion is called Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana means eternal. Dharma is how can I best explain Dharma? Essential quality or essential nature of something. Like the essential nature of salt is saltiness. If you remove the salt, it's no longer salt. Same thing with sugar. Remove the sweetness, it's no longer sugar. It cannot be classified as sugar. Human beings and life have an essential nature, an eternal nature. And there are eternal principles, which we're talking about the law of karma. So these qualities of these aspects of tradition and religion are very rooted in existence itself. It may disappear for some time through destruction or corruption or whatever, but the essential quality of those things will manifest again. They'll come up because they're in line, they're in harmony with nature. This way that we act in society, this is very disconnected from nature. We need tradition if we want to grow in a healthy way and flourish as a species. We need tradition. We need religion. Tradition in its authentic sense. We need religion in its authentic sense too. Authentic sense. Not the exploitation that we've come to see happening throughout the world, happening throughout humanity. Not the exploitation. This only destroys religion. This destroys tradition. And then, as I was saying previously, this destruction of tradition happens when religion, happens when tradition, religion also, become corrupted for whatever reason. And then people see that, rightfully so, and they proclaim, this is heresy, this is bad, this is not good. And this is what we're also doing between males and females in some way or another. We're not trying to understand the mechanism. We're not trying to understand the destructive nature of our actions and question, are there more elevated actions to engage in? Something more befitting for us, more beneficial for us. We continue to sort of self-implode on ourselves, in some way going deeper down into the rabbit hole, instead of taking a look at the qualities at the instead of taking a look at what is actually before us. Because typically, what we see in life is a projection of our mind onto the reality around us. It's not life as it is. And men and women do that with each other. But I think if just a little more attention is paid to understanding what's happening, to leave the conclusions aside, put them on a shelf, categorize them, leave them for later. We can pay attention to them later, but leave them aside for now and just pay attention to who it is that's in front of us. Do we really understand what they're saying? Even hearing, can we hear them clearly? First thing. And if we do see that we hear them clearly, are we sure that we understand them? If we were to paraphrase back to them, or at least share our own understanding of what they had said, what they had done, I wonder how many times we'd be right, and I wonder how many times we'd be wrong, and to what degree. You know. So to see these qualities, male and female qualities, I think that it's good to see them just for the sake of improving our relations between people, first and foremost. If we can understand how the other operates in some way to some extent, we can maybe do something